footsteps in history. But first, Paul, we're so glad to have you back. You were here a few weeks ago, and we were talking about the great things that are going on at Becker College. We just had on the new president of Becker, actually, Dr. Johnson. It was great to have him here. And, of course, he's singing the praises of this video game major. I mean, you know, ranked #1 in New England, and you're getting tons of publicity and a lot of students coming for it as well. Now, the last time you were on, you were telling us about Mass Impact, this program that's coming up on the 18th. Give me a little bit about that.
Sure, and it's great to be back. Thank you. Actually, it's on the 19th.
19th.
But that's okay, as long as people show up. Yeah, we call it Mass Impact. And the idea is to take this success we've had in game design and essentially expand it. And what we want to do is we want to be the catalyst to create a cluster of game design companies in Massachusetts. Massachusetts is already a hub, but the idea is, what can we do to nurture this industry here in Massachusetts?
Now, what can we do to nurture it? Clearly, having kids come here for the major at Becker is part of it, but it sounds like what you're talking about is that the second part of it is that then we have to have an industry for them to stay.
Exactly. We graduate a lot of students you know, in this area in central Massachusetts. We have so many colleges, but a lot of them leave. In the game industry, many of them go to the West Coast. We want them to stay here. So one of the ways to nurture the industry is to make it a place, make Massachusetts a place where game companies want to locate. It's a quality of life issue. It's a you know, certain incentives that can be provided.
Now what are gamers like? Because Becker, of course, is interesting. On the campus, because you have your Leicester campus, which obviously is more of a rural campus. You do have your downtown Worcester, which is more of that urban campus. Do you find that gamers or game companies, do they want to locate in the larger cities? Do they want a Worcester? Or do they want their guys out there stoked up on Mountain Dew slushies or whatever it is, working all night long out in the woods somewhere?
This is a very, very odd thing. And for the most part, our students prefer to be on the Worcester campus. But in general, for the business, they prefer the suburban areas. They prefer central Massachusetts. So you look at a lot of these companies, and they're in, you know, Maynard. They're in places which aren't necessarily downtown Boston.
Right, so able to connect to all that a Worcester or a Boston has to offer, but not right there in
with that suburban quality
downtown.
of life.
I think we also, and I wonder, is this a generational thing? I mean, you know, the kids who are coming in today, of course, know that they are getting into an industry that is high-paying, that is fast-paced, that is very competitive. My generation probably still thinks more of it as, oh, you know what, it's games, it's entertainment. All right, I'm not quite thinking it's Pong, but that kind of thing. Yet you see the graphics now, or you see that it's so much more. It's not just games, but I mean, it's history, it's education. There's so much more to it.
Oh, absolutely. These games are so deep. They have such breadth. It's not just playing Pong anymore. It's games about World War II. It's games about history. It's games about sociology and psychology. So students have to have that background, the psychology, the sociology, the general education stuff, in order to make very compelling games.
Boy, they create those whole
worlds. We call it that. It's world creation.
Yeah, it's interesting. We just had on Dustin, who's a clown with Ringling Brothers, and knew early on that that's what he wanted to be.
Well,
it's a hard act to follow. But he talked about, you know, as a kid, you know, I mean, you know, he was kind of in his own world a little bit, in the things that he was interested in. I'm wondering if some of the kids who come out to Becker and are involved in this major, if they also really kind of maybe knew from early on that this was what they were interested in, that there was a certain, you know, social atmosphere that they had in high school, and how does that maybe carry through to the college campus for guys in that major?
It's absolutely a case of that happening. And first of all, it's focus. They're extremely tightly focused on what they want to achieve. They know what they want to achieve. So you see it in terms of, on campus, in terms of they'll typically hang out together. You know, you'll see them playing games together. They'll live in the same dormitories. We have classes in the same buildings. So they form a very tight-knit group. And I think that extends to the industry, and that's why, for instance, you know, they grew up in suburbia. That's particularly where they want to locate their companies.
Do they keep playing the games? I mean, is that still an interest, or is there a point where they go, oh my goodness, wait a minute, I can't do it for fun anymore because this is, you know, this is my schoolwork or this is my job?
Right. Well, first of all, it's more than fun, because a lot of them are creating games that are educational, or they're creating games which are used in education or in the military or a simulation. But even the ones that play just design the entertainment games also typically play them. I've only run into one student who said, I've really seen, what's behind the curtains. It takes my interest in playing away. Only one student out of, 130 odd.
Now, you talked about the fact that, here in Massachusetts, part of what Becker is helping to build is here in Massachusetts where we're going to have these jobs. I mean, this is going to be an industry that's going to continue to grow. This is obviously a real growth industry.
Right.
How many jobs right now? How many of these companies? And what Paul, is the typical company? Is a typical company 4 or 5 people? Is it hundreds of employees?
It depends on the company. Like, for instance, at the Impact event, we're going to have representatives for a number of these companies, from small independents like, and this is a company that just signed up. I have to refer to my notes.
And they're all going to be there, which is
ones.
Great. Yeah.
Tencent is going to be there. They're the largest game company in China and one of the largest in the world. They're larger than EA Games.
Really,
and they have a studio here in Mass. So you'll see everything from the 1 or 2 person independent games.
Right.
The companies that are making small games for iPods and iPhones.
Yeah.
To the very large games like companies like Tencent.
That's amazing now, isn't it? I mean, boy, I remember when I went to college and you were in your dorm room, it was all about who had the biggest speakers and everything else. Now everything is about who's got the smallest of
or the
everything.
largest monitors.
Or the largest monitors. That's right.
Yeah.
But people are watching whole movies, just on their phones and things. It really is an amazing changing business. And Becker, of course, is going to have to stay on that cutting edge.
Right, and I think this Impact event is one way in which we can do that in terms of expanding that industry so that there'll be jobs for the majors that we graduate.
Right. So just a moment left. So who should come out then to Mass Impact? Parents bring your kids if they're interested, or? Actually,
this is more for the gaming community, the companies, and the public sector. It's a meeting place for the private sector in terms of the game companies, academia, and government.
Yeah.
So government's role is there to create the atmosphere to nurture the game industry. There's a panel on that. There's a panel on what the special challenges are for that industry. And there's also a panel about, what is a cluster? And how can we get these companies to work together to make the whole industry a much bigger and better thing?
This would strike me that this is something that I'm sure. Do you get a lot of support from the state representative? This would seem to be right up there. Patrick Murray and Jim McGovern will be there, Congressman.
Yeah, absolutely. The city manager, Mr. O'Brien, is going to be there. Representative Pedoni, who's done a fantastic job, is pulling the whole thing together. You'll see Jack Healy. You'll see Kevin O'Sullivan. So we're going to use the biotech model. And we're going to have, this is the person's name I want to see, Dr. Elizabeth Higgins. She's a CEO and founder of Glyco Solutions. She's an alumni of this biotech research park. And we want to do the same thing for game design. Have a game design research park right on the Becker campus. Our students graduate, they pull down some venture capital funding, they create their own games, and they stay here in Massachusetts, create new companies and new jobs.
Fantastic. Hey, congratulations to you, Becker, and all that you're doing. This is wonderful. We'll be out there at Mass Impact on the 19th.
October 19th.
Great. Thank you. Coming up, Footsteps in History right here on the Hank Stolz Experience.